Hello everyone, my name is George Serra and I'm the president of the Maple Ridge Teachers Association. First, I'd like to thank Aaron Duff and the Families Against Cuts to Education organization for putting this rally together. My hope is that this is the beginning of numerous rallies we are attending in the next little while. It is going to take ongoing commitment from all of us to bring out more of our family and friends to rallies such as these to get Christy Clark and her sidekick Peter Fassbender to start paying attention. As president of the Maple Ridge Teachers Association for the last 5 years, you know I have just a few things to say about the current underfunding of education. And by the way, Mr. Fassbender, underfunding is no myth. Even suggesting that is an incredible insult to all the educators in this province, along with the trustees who truly know the financial crisis we are in. My role puts me in the unenviable position of hearing on a daily basis from teachers regarding how classroom conditions have deteriorated over the last few years. Anyone who has spent any time in a school over the last 10 or so years knows that support for our most vulnerable students has eroded. I received an email just yesterday from a primary teacher that I'd like to read to you. The subject line read, "So depressing." The email said, "With a heavy heart, I read the paper to learn that class sizes are going to increase. Minimally, but still. I have currently 12 students in my grade 1 class who I am worried will not meet expectations for reading at the end of this year. I generate 0% of EA time, though we steal bits from here and there, and I hope I am a capable teacher, but this is where I am at, and it feels shitty. I have decided that next year will be my last, and it is breaking my heart. What are they doing to us?" I have known this teacher for many years, and I guarantee you that she is more than a capable teacher. But meeting the needs of our diverse classrooms in our current climate of chronic underfunding is impossible. I still remember when Trustee Clarkson was first elected to the school board and experienced his very first budget cycle. I believe that was about 7 years ago. At that time, he stated that not only was there no more fat to trim, we were actually cutting right into bone with what our Liberal government was forcing boards to work with. So I want to take a bit of time listing for you what our school board has cut over the last 3 years to balance the school budget annually. Cuts that are continually characterized publicly as being as far away from the classroom and students as possible. Or to use a more current Liberal government description, cuts that should only include the low-hanging fruit. So just 2 years ago, the list includes things that have been cut: school-based administration, custodial and ground staffing, clerical staffing, student support staffing, helping teachers. Class sizes elementary were increased, eliminating a number of teachers. High school teacher librarians were made part-time. Continuing to cut supply budgets, which we've already heard from some of the parents. 2 years ago, that total was $5.66 million that had to be cut out of the budget. That was 2 years ago. So how about this year, last year's budget cycle? More services and supplies, including personnel in areas like the Human Resources Department. Now, easy to think that maybe that is away from the classroom, but that person in Human Resources Department that was cut was part of the recruitment process at district office. You've probably had lots of your kids coming home talking about how there was no replacement at the school, both in the EA or in the teacher. Well, it was that person's job to make sure we were hiring enough replacements, and that wasn't being done this year. This year, huge reductions in technology department, facilities maintenance department, cuts at Riverside Center that included clerical time, administration, and teachers. Summer school reading programs like Reading Racers was eliminated. A program simply for those early school-age children that had difficulties reading had to be cut. Support teachers across the district, both elementary and secondary, was cut. In addition, time for support teachers and classroom teachers to be released to discuss student needs and to collaborate with classroom teachers was reduced. Increased caseloads to our specialist teachers, speech and language pathologists, those ratios were increased. Even this year, increase in class sizes, both elementary and secondary, again. Support for students, English language learners, was reduced. Again this year, huge slash in clerical hours. Many of you have probably tried to call schools right after school and there isn't anybody there to answer the phone. School-based career planning assistance was cut. Ironic, considering the incredible focus that our government keeps stating, which is to prepare our students for the workforce. These were the people that were working with our high school kids to help them make that transition into the workforce. So this particular past year, add another $5.02 million that had to be cut out of the budget. So where does that leave us moving forward? This particular past Wednesday, the school board produced their budget proposals for the next 2 years. Not quite so bleak, but let's not forget that there was a surplus, some of which, of course, came from strike savings. So when teachers were on strike and you started to hear things like, well, government won't care, they're just saving a bunch of money. There was some truth to that, because this year's deficit's not quite as large, and some of that is from the money that was saved because we were on strike. But let's look at some of the things that are being proposed moving forward. You've already heard about all busing on the chopping block. Implementation of what's called BYOD, that's bring your own device. So we know what that's going to mean. That's going to mean the difference getting even further between those families that can buy technology for their students and those that cannot. Again, more reductions in the services and supplies budgets, meaning you are going to have to be paying more and having your kids come to school with things that were the basic services and supplies that a school used to be able to provide. And again, the ratios for students with special needs and teachers is being raised again. Class sizes at primary, kindergarten, and grades 1 to 3 is listed as increasing in 2 years. There's more, but I think you get the idea. So based on the list I've read you, what areas do you think our government would characterize as low-hanging fruit? It is embarrassing to be living in a province that puts public education so low on the priority list. Now, don't get me wrong. The Liberals are accurate in their characterization that we definitely do have low-hanging fruit. And they are accurate that this province does indeed have low-hanging fruit. But it's not in the education sector. The only low-hanging fruit in this province is Christy Clark, Peter Fassbender, Mike de Jong, and the rest of the Liberal government, including our very own MLAs, who not only refused to stand up for our students during the protracted teacher strike, but even made sure they were not in their offices to answer to their constituents. Make no mistake, this education underfunding is more than simply balancing the budget on the backs of our students in this province. The underfunding, like Trustee Clarkson said, is strategic. We see it happening in so many of the states down in the south. All the rankings clearly show that all the reform movements down in the states have devastated their education system, yet our government follows their lead. The final point I would like to make is to say that rallies like these are so important, not because I have any delusion that our government will listen, but because we need to keep educating the general public on the importance of public education. So what will make our government pay attention? Well, for that, I'd like to direct your attention to the table right over there, the recall campaign. Recalling MLAs will result in getting our government to realize that simply winning the provincial election on broken promises does not mean they do not need to listen to their constituents while they are in office. Please support the campaign. We need to take back our province and once again become proud British Columbians. Thank you all for coming.